Welcome to Lantern Light. There is nothing you need to remember and nothing you need to keep track of. You may drift in and out of the words. The story will remain quiet beside you. You are standing at the top of a narrow descending lane, caught between terracotta walls that lean gently toward one another as they guide the way down. The stone steps beneath your feet have been worn smooth by decades of use. Their surfaces slightly uneven, each one carrying the subtle dip and curve of countless footsteps before yours. You have arrived at the edge of the harbor for the first time in the early dusk, and the air here feels different from the world you left behind. This is one of the coastal sleep journeys, a place where there is no pressure and nothing to keep track of. You may drift without following every word. You are welcome here, simply as you are. As you descend the last few steps, the harbor opens before you. It is small, enclosed on three sides by low buildings and stone walls, and the water within it lies nearly flat. 4 or 5 fishing boats are moored in a loose row, their painted hulls faded to soft blues and greens by the sun and salt of many seasons. Beneath them, their reflections rest in the water, barely moving, as though the surface itself is holding its breath. Above the village, the hillside rises in layers of dark pine trees, stepping up behind the terracotta rooftops in quiet succession. The air carries their faint resin down toward the water, a clean sharpness that mingles with the salt of the sea. Together, these scents form something whole and unhurried, something that belongs entirely to this place. The light is changing now. The sun has already slipped behind the hill, leaving the harbor in its gentle shadow, but the sky above you remains bright. At its highest point, it still holds a trace of orange, cooling gradually toward a pale indigo at the zenith. The first windows in the terracotta buildings are beginning to show their interior warmth, small glowing squares appearing one by one as the daylight softens. You walk forward slowly, your footsteps quiet on the stone, until you reach the harbor edge. Here, the quay is made of wide, flat stones, their surfaces smooth and slightly uneven, each one fitted against the next in a pattern that speaks of care and time. You stop and you place your feet firmly on these stones. One hand reaches out to rest on a low stone wall beside you, and you feel the warmth still held in its surface, the stored heat of the day radiating gently against your palm. The harbor is still, and the water holds the light. Below the wall, the water laps very gently against the stone, a soft, repetitive sound that requires no attention but offers itself freely. The boats sit heavy and quiet in their moorings, their bows pointing inward toward the quay, as though they have gathered here for rest. A single mooring line hangs between one boat and a wooden post, and as the boat shifts almost imperceptibly with the breathing of the water, the rope moves against the wood. It makes a low, soft creak, a sound that comes and goes without pattern, steady in its irregularity. You do not need to listen for it, but it is there, and it will continue whether you notice it or not. You simply stand and look. There is no destination named, no movement required. The harbor is arranged quietly before you, as though it has always been in the act of settling, as though this moment of stillness has been here waiting for you to arrive and witness it. The indigo deepens overhead, and more windows begin to glow. The warmth beneath your hand fades by the smallest degree, but it does not leave entirely. The stone remembers the sun. The water remembers the motion of the day. And you are here now, at the edge of it all, breathing the salt and the pine, feeling the smooth stone beneath your feet and the warmth still lingering in the wall. One of the boats rocks gently just once, and its reflection shivers and reforms. The rope creaks again, low and soft. A voice drifts from somewhere behind you, distant and unhurried, and then fades into the evening without urgency. The harbor is still, and the water holds the light. You do not need to do anything here. You do not need to remember the names of the boats or count the windows as they brighten. You are simply standing, simply breathing, simply present in this place where the day is releasing itself into evening with the gentlest of sighs. The air is warm enough and cool enough, and exactly as it should be. The hillside above you darkens, the pines becoming silhouettes against the last glow of the sky. The harbor settles further into itself. The water breathes, and you remain here at the edge, your hand on the stone, your feet on the wide flat quay, watching the harbor as it arranges itself for the night. You begin to walk along the quay edge, your steps unhurried, each footfall finding the smooth stone beneath you. The path curves gently, following the inner rim of the harbor, and you move with that curve, letting your pace settle into something even softer than before. Each step finds its place without effort, and the stone meets your weight with the same steady presence it has offered to countless others over the years, you naturally at the nearest moored boat. It rests just an arm's length away, a wide-hulled wooden vessel painted in weathered blues and whites, its name still visible near the bow in faded letters that have softened under sun and salt. The boat sits low in the water, settled and at ease. The hull nudges the dock with the gentlest contact. There is no wave to push it, no current strong enough to move it in any deliberate way. Only the harbor's own slow breath remains, a slight rise and fall so small it might only be imagined. The boat lifts, barely, and settles back, and the wooden side brushes the stone with a softness that carries no sound at all. The harbor is still, and the water holds the light. You let your gaze lift upward to the buildings that line the waterfront. 2 rows of narrow houses and small workshops face the harbor, their facades the color of terracotta, their shutters painted in shades of ochre and pale green. As you watch, the upper windows begin to glow one by one. Someone inside has lit a lamp, and then another, and then a third. Warm amber squares appear in the walls, appearing without hurry, as though each window waits its turn to join the gathering light. The glow is softer than daylight, warmer than the fading sky. It catches on the inner sills and spills outward just enough to touch the edges of the shutters, tracing their wooden slats in gentle lines. You watch another window brighten, and then one more. The pattern is not uniform. It spreads through the buildings in its own time, following no order you can predict, and that randomness feels easy, natural, like breathing. Your attention drifts downward to the water directly below one of the lit windows. There, on the surface of the harbor, you find a soft column of amber light. The reflection stretches down into the dark water, a long golden shape that wavers just slightly. The occasional passage of the harbor's gentlest ripple fractures the column into pieces, and then the water stills again, and the reflection reforms. It does not disappear. It only and then returns. You look down at the stone quay itself. The surface beneath your feet has been worn over time, shaped by use into something softer than it was. Near the mooring posts, the stone dips into shallow hollows where generations of feet have stood in the same places, waiting, watching, tending to boats or nets or lines. The stone remembers those years, holds the impression of them in its surface. A rusted iron ring is set into the edge of the key, its metal dark and textured, its shape still strong despite the wear. Beside it lies a coil of rope left on the stones, its fibers rough and dry to the eye, loosely wound, not needed now, but resting there as though it might be called upon at any moment. You do not touch it, but you can imagine the feel of it, the texture of the twisted strands, the slight give under your hand. The air around you shifts just slightly. The warmth that has been radiating from the pale stone wall to one side is still there. The stored heat of the day releasing itself into the evening. But the air from the water is a few degrees cooler now, and when you stand between the two, you can feel both at once. It is a soft contrast rather than a chill, a layering of temperatures that asks nothing of you, only brushes against your skin with the lightest touch. A sound reaches you from somewhere behind the buildings. Low voices, 2 or perhaps 3, speaking in tones that carry no urgency. The words are indistinct, shaped only by rhythm and tone, and you cannot make them out. The voices linger for a moment, unhurried, and then they fade gently as though the speakers have turned a corner or moved away through a back street. The harbor becomes quieter than it was before. You stand where you are, your weight settled evenly, your breathing slow. The boat beside you continues its gentle rise and fall. The windows above continue to glow. The reflected light on the water wavers and reforms. Nothing asks you to move. Nothing asks you to think. The harbor is still, and the water holds the light. The pace of the evening continues to slow around you, each element settling further into its place. The harbor breathes with the gentlest tide, and you breathe with it. There is no rush here, no need to move or turn away from what surrounds you now. You return your attention to the water. The surface has grown darker, yet it still carries light. The last pale color of the sky reflects in it now, a thin stripe of faded rose near the horizon beyond the harbor mouth. The rest of the water is dark and mirror smooth. You watch this narrow band of color, soft and unhurried, as it holds itself against the deepening blue around it. The boats have settled further into stillness. The earlier movement you noticed, the subtle rise and fall of hulls against the dock, is barely noticeable now. The ropes remain where they are, resting against the wooden posts. Only the occasional soft creak marks that any motion remains at all. Even that sound comes more slowly than before, spreading itself out across the quiet. You let your gaze move across the buildings that line the harbor edge. The windows glow warmly now, their light steady and unchanging. You count them gently and unhurriedly. 3 in the building directly across from where you stand, 1 higher up in the structure to the left. The light in each one is warm and unmoving. No shadows cross them. They simply hold their glow, soft and constant. The air around you is still. You notice the pine scent from the hill arriving in a barely there movement of air. It is not a breeze strong enough to feel on your skin. Only the scent shifts almost imperceptibly, then settles again to salt and stone. You breathe it in without effort, the fragrance mingling and then separating, each element present and gentle. Your awareness drifts now to your own body. You notice the warmth of the stone wall under your resting hand. The surface is smooth, holding the last stored heat of the day. You feel the smooth quay beneath your feet, the weathered stones that have carried so many footsteps before yours. The weight of standing becomes the comfortable weight of being still. You do not need to shift or move. You're held here quietly by the harbor itself. The harbor is still, and the water holds the light. The sky overhead continues its shift to deep indigo. 1 or 2 stars have appeared now, visible above the roofline. They are quiet and distant and still. You let your eyes rest on them for a moment, then let them go. There is no need to count them or to search for more. They are simply there as you're here. The water draws your attention back. It always does. The dark surface stretches before you, soft and receptive. The column of amber from the nearest window lies across it, a path of reflected light that does not move. You watch this reflection, the way it rests on the water without urgency, softly present. The evening wraps itself around the harbor. Each element you have noticed remains in its place. The terracotta walls, the moored boats, the glowing windows, the dark water. Nothing rushes, nothing changes more than it needs to. You feel the coolness beginning to arrive from the water now, easing over the warmth that the stone still holds. The 2 temperatures rest together, neither one pushing the other away. Your body knows this balance without thought, receiving both the lingering heat and the gentle cool. The rope creaks softly once more against its post. The sound is familiar now, expected. It comes and fades, and you do not follow it. You simply let it be part of the quiet that holds everything here. Your hand rests where it has been resting. Your feet remain where they are. The harbor breathes, and you breathe with it. The rhythm so slow now that you hardly notice when one breath ends and another begins. The thin stripe of rose on the horizon has faded further. It is almost indistinguishable from the indigo now. Soon it will be gone entirely, but for this moment it lingers, soft and pale, a memory of the day that has passed. The windows continue to glow, 3 across, 1 higher up. Their light does not waver. It simply is, warm and steady, reflected now in the dark mirror of the water below. You stand at the harbor edge, and everything is still. The water is dark and holds the amber column of light without effort. The boats rest against the dock. The air carries salt and stone and the faintest trace of pine. And you are here, held by the harbor, breathing with it, settling with it into the gentle evening that has no need to become anything other than what it already is. The smooth stones rest beneath you, worn and calm, holding nothing but their own weight and the memory of warmth. The harbor breathes so slowly now that the rise and fall lives only as a feeling, something you sense rather than see, the water moving with such gentleness that it asks nothing of you at all. The boats sit low on the water they know well, their hulls dark and still. The colors that were there in the daylight have been absorbed into the evening now, taken into the soft indigo that settles over everything. Only the shapes remain, patient and familiar, moored to their posts and resting without effort. The rope creaks once against the wood, a soft sound that travels across the quiet harbor and fades into the air. Then there is only stillness again, and the water, and the slow rhythm that asks for nothing. The terracotta walls hold their windows of warm light, the same amber glow resting on the same stones. The light reaches across the water in a single, soft reflection, lying still on the surface, undisturbed. The water and the night sky above it have become almost the same now, both dark and calm, separated only by that one gentle line of warmth. The harbor is still, and the water holds the light. The stone wall beside you keeps the last of the day in its surface, and even warmth that asks nothing of your hand if your hand rests there. The air from the water touches your face with its coolness, gentle and without demand. Both sensations are soft, both are easy, and neither pulls you toward anything at all. The voices that were there earlier, low and distant, have gone now. The harbor is fully quiet. There is only the water, moving so slowly you can barely tell it moves at all. There is the rope resting against its post. There is the silence itself, which has become something you can almost feel, a texture as real as the stone or the air. The boats rest on the water, their shapes low and dark and known. They have settled into their places for the evening, and they do not stir. The hulls sit in the harbor as they have sat so many evenings before, familiar with the gentle tide, familiar with the stillness. The water laps so softly against the wood that the sound is barely there, more a suggestion than a presence, something you might hear or might only imagine you hear. The amber reflection lies across the surface, warm and unmoving. The windows in the terracotta walls glow with the same light, the same quiet presence. Nothing changes. Nothing needs to change. The rope rests against the post, the wood worn smooth where the two meet. The harbor stones rest beneath you, cool and even. The boats rest on the water. Everything rests. The harbor breathes with you now, so slowly that there is no difference between its rhythm and your own. The rise and fall is only a feeling, something happening so gently that you cannot tell where it begins or where it ends. The water moves, or perhaps it does not move. It does not matter. The terracotta walls hold their warmth. The windows hold their light. The rope holds its place against the post. The boats sit low on the water they know well, their shapes soft in the darkness, their colors gone into the evening. They are only outlines now, only the idea of boats resting without effort on the surface that holds them. The smooth stones are beneath you, worn by so many footsteps into their gentle curves. They are cool now, or almost cool, holding only the faintest memory of the day. They ask nothing. They offer only their surface, solid and patient and still. The rope creaks once more, so softly the sound is almost lost before it arrives. Then the quiet returns, deeper now, more complete. The space between sounds is where you rest, not on the sounds themselves, but in the long, gentle intervals where nothing happens at all. The water barely moves. The harbor barely breathes. The amber light lies still across the surface, the same reflection you have been watching, unchanging and calm. The air is soft against your face. The stone is warm beneath your hand. Both are easy. Both are simple. The boats rest on the water. The rope rests against the post. The harbor holds everything in its stillness, and everything is enough. The terracotta walls, the moored boats, the smooth stones, the warm windows with their amber glow, all of it rests, all of it breathes with the harbor's slow rhythm, rising and falling so gently that the movement is only a feeling, something that happens without effort or thought. The water and the sky have become one darkness now, separated only by the light that lies between them, soft and still and asking nothing of you. The harbor is still, and the water holds the light. You let the details of this place soften now, the shapes and names of things fading as the light has faded, leaving only what remains when nothing needs to be seen or known. There is warmth here, and there is weight, and there is breath, and that is enough. The warmth you feel is not the warmth of movement or effort, but the warmth of stone that has held the sun all through the long afternoon and now gives it back, slow and certain, long after the sun itself has slipped below the hills. It spreads across you with an even, unhurried weight, the way heat settles into something solid and stays there, patient and sure. You do not need to seek it or hold it. It is simply there, resting against you, through you, as natural as the cooling air above. Your breath moves in its own rhythm now, rising and falling without thought, without need. You notice it the way you might notice the faintest movement of air in a room where nothing stirs, present and continuous, asking nothing of you. Each breath arrives when it arrives and leaves when it leaves, and the space between them is soft and open. The weight of your body feels welcome now, held by what is beneath you the way the harbor holds the water, without resistance, without effort. There is nothing to lift, nothing to carry, only this quiet exchange between warmth and weight, between breath and stillness. Somewhere, At the furthest edge of hearing, there is still the presence of water, though you would not name it now and you do not follow it. It continues as it has always continued, a rhythm older and slower than thought, neither near nor far, simply there in the way that breath is there, in the way that warmth is there. The harbor is still, and the water holds the light. That refrain settles now like the last color fading from the sky, so quiet it is barely more than a feeling, the final thing this place would offer before the dark becomes complete. You do not need to repeat it or remember it. It rests where it has always rested, in the stillness itself. There is a warmth that might once have been amber, might once have been the glow of windows or the last reflection on water, but now it is only warmth, only the feeling of something soft and golden held somewhere inside the quiet. You do not picture it, you simply feel it. The way you feel the weight of your own body, certain and calm. Your breath continues, slow and without edge. The warmth continues. The weight remains, gentle and sure. There are no details left to notice now, no shapes to name or sounds to follow. There is only this, the rising and falling that asks nothing, the warmth that gives itself without effort, the stillness that holds everything and lets everything go. You rest here and the rest continues, as easy as breathing, as certain as stone. The night deepens around you, and you deepen with it, softer with each breath, warmer with each moment of stillness. There is no need to know what comes next. There is no next. There is only this breath and this warmth and this weight that holds you so gently you could not tell where it ends and you begin. Nothing asks you to return. Nothing asks you to stay. You simply rest, and the resting continues, and the warmth remains, and your breath moves through you like water moving through the harbor, patient and timeless and still.